Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. In our previous episode, we talked about Rimuru, Malim, Gaobda, Rongda, and Cheyenne, who were all set and prepared alongside Ms. Kigali's exploration team to delve into the AMALITA Ruins. So, what dangers awaited Rimuru within the ruins? This episode will cover the battle between Rimuru's team and Mariabell Rosso, the Greed. Let's get started. Firstly, let's look into Mariabell's movements. Following the complete failure of the plan by the Western Council, Mariabell Rosso and Yuki Kagarizaka began formulating their next move. Having gained a clear understanding of Rimuru's team's capabilities, Mariabell and Yuki decided to devise a more robust and effective strategy to overcome Rimuru. Yuki presented a report to Mariabell, explaining that within the ancient elven ruins of AMALITA, there was a crystallization of magic technology. Activating this mechanism could yield the power and destructive force capable of defeating Rimuru. As expected, Mariabell laid out a meticulous plan to ensure a comprehensive victory over Rimuru. She informed Yuki that it was time to utilize the hidden ace they had retrieved from the dragon's nest. Yuki hesitated at this point since even he found it challenging to control this trump card, which if mishandled could bring about immense catastrophe to the human world. Mariabell brushed off these concerns, stating that this asset originally belonged to Malim Nava and it was time to return it to her. Thus, in secrecy, Mariabell and Yuki detailed their battle plan. Switching focus back to Rimuru's side, under the protection of the two demon lords, Rimuru and Malim, the exploration team reached the bottommost layer of the ruins in merely 2 days. As there were hardly any dangers and they had the demon lords protecting them, the adventurers felt at ease, engaging in lively conversations with Rimuru. However, in the midst of their chatter, the earth suddenly trembled, and a massive energy reaction assaulted the surrounding area including the ruins, causing rocks from above to tumble down, hinting at an impending cave-in. Feeling puzzled, Rimuru intended to use the transfer gate to inspect the situation outside, but the Lord of Wisdom suddenly sounded an alarm, indicating that someone had triggered the ruins' defense system. A team was invading the ruins, followed by a robotic voice announcing,
"AMALITA has been infiltrated. Exterminate invaders. AMALITA has been infiltrated. Exterminate invaders."
Subsequently, a bunch of magical golems and enchanted dolls appeared, repeating these phrases, sending a chilling premonition of danger among the group. The situation swiftly turned dire. Even the usually composed Ms. Kigali began to worry. Rimuru comforted her on the surface but harbored doubts about Kigali inwardly. However, there was no time for Rimuru to contemplate as a second earthquake struck. This time, even Rimuru was taken aback. His expression instantly turned serious. After extending his magical perception outside the ruins following the magical trail, Rimuru observed an ominous dragon approaching from the distant sky. Its appearance resembled the storm dragon Veldora, yet it was larger in size. Its skin appeared to be corroding, emitting a massive aura of malevolent energy. Rimuru was startled. This was no ordinary dragon, but a calamity. The amount of magicule contained within this dragon far surpassed that of awakened demon lords, marking its danger level as a true cataclysm. It had already surpassed the level of archdragons and could only be identified as a true dragon. Rimuru couldn't help but wonder if this dragon was Veldora's sibling. However, considering it to be a true dragon, its decayed physique failed to exude the majesty and grace typical of true dragons. At this moment, Malim suddenly widened her eyes, murmuring as if staring into the void, before hurriedly bidding Rimuru farewell, vanishing into thin air through spatial transfer. Witnessing the frantic demeanor of Malim, Rimuru somewhat deduced the identity of this dragon. In the episode 10 of Explanation of Rimurus Labyrinth, we mentioned the Chaos Dragon. Before becoming a demon lord, Malim had a very close friend and spiritual dragon nurtured by the power of her father, Veldanava. However, due to the schemes of a certain nation, this dragon was slain. The infuriated Malim awakened as a demon lord, laying waste to all in her path. The earth shattered with life and despair, until the intervention of Gi and Rimurus halted her rampage. Once calm was restored, Malim joyously discovered that her awakening had also evolved the once-deceased little dragon. Yet the soulless dragon had then turned into a malevolent chaos dragon. It no longer recognized Malim, driven only by destruction. Seeing the rotting evil dragon, Malim realized her friend was gone. She sealed away the remains of her friend, thereby rendering a great service to the world. Now, the evil dragon appearing here was precisely that friend of Malim's which had been sealed away, a being so troublesome that even Rimuru felt apprehensive. What was more terrifying was that the dragon's sentiments had been darkened entirely, implying that Mariabell, the greed, was controlling it through emotions. Kigali whispered silently, expressing her surprise at the dragon's untimely appearance, a sentiment shared by Rimuru. However, Rimuru believed that Malim would surely prevail. Hence, Rimuru began to tackle the golems and enchanted dolls on their end. Fortunately, the enemies within the ruins was not formidable, and with the aid of Cheyenne, Ranga, and Gabda, they were swiftly dealt with. As the battle concluded, a party emerged before them.
"Greetings, I am Mariabell, your adversary,"
said the young girl standing at the forefront, calmly introducing herself. Beside her stood three others, a heavily wounded and utterly transformed guy, a knightly dressed man, and Yuki Kagarazaka. Upon Yuki's appearance, Kigali and the team were shaken, vociferously questioning Yuki's allegiance, but Yuki, seemingly under control, showed no reaction.
Fair point, we indeed are adversaries, but before engaging in battle, may I propose something? Join under my banner, and we can avoid unnecessary strife.
Rimuru calmly proposed, yet Mariabell promptly declined. During the ensuing conversation, Rimuru understood the divergence in their ideologies as leaders of different factions. Mariabell believed in the law of the jungle, where the weak had no rights to speak of, while Rimuru envisioned a world of equality where everyone held boundless potential, devoid of hierarchical discrimination. Thus, negotiations bore no fruit. The conflicting righteous stances clashed head-on here. Upon Mariabell's command, a bloodshot-eyed guy was the first to act, rushing towards Rimuru with hatred. Cheyenne yelled, trying to intercept Guy but was blocked by Yuki. Likewise, Gabda, one of the big four, merged with Ranga to combat the last remaining subordinate, the knight, in battle. Just as Guy unsheathed the sacred sword intending to strike at Rimuru, Rimuru, prior to this, unleashed his own power, concentrating his demonic energy into his left hand and casually splashed it onto Guy. With just that, Guy turned to dust and disappeared from this world. Mariabell was shocked, and at this moment she finally realized the adversary she faced was no ordinary gentle and honest character, but one of the most powerful octogram demon lords in this world. Even Guy, who had transcended human limits through her enhancement, was burnt to ashes like trash. Given the circumstances, it was time to play her trump card. Mariabell, immersed in her thoughts, employed her long-prepared, strongest spell against monsters, Holy Field, which was the direct cause of Cheyenne's earlier demise. In an instant, both Gabda and Cheyenne felt immense pressure, displaying strained expressions, yet how could Rimuru be unprepared for such a scenario? Rimuru revealed a fearless smile and with a snap of his fingers, he nullified the barrier. Mariabell was taken aback once more but quickly regained her composure, lunging towards Rimuru to launch a fierce kick, a strike with a force capable of severing steel pillars, heavier than a cannonball of a tank. However, for Rimuru, it was neither painful nor itchy. He effortlessly caught her leg and, using the momentum, flung her away. Landing on her hands, Mariabell utilized the recoil to roll backwards, evading Rimuru's pursuit, and during her counterattack, activated the Death Wish skill from her unique skill Greed. A wave of dark energy surged towards Rimuru, embodying the mystical inversion of all beings' instinctive desire for survival, a capability attainable only by honing a unique skill to its pinnacle. Under the influence of the Death Wish skill, the more the affected person wants to survive, the faster they will die. Undoubtedly, there was no one in this world capable of resisting the desire of survival. Rimuru, enveloped by the dark wave, showed no sign of resistance, standing dumbfounded. Indeed, Mariabell was exceedingly powerful, and even beings like awakened Clayman, Frey, Karayan, or even Hinata Sakaguchi, could only face defeat before her. But Rimuru was different. he had already awakened 4 ultimate skills, and in this world, unique skills were powerless against ultimate skills due to a matter of soul intensity. In the face of the overwhelming mental prowess brought by awakened ultimate abilities, the damage that unique skills could inflict was non-existent, so only ultimate skills could overcome ultimate skills. From this standpoint, Mariabell had already conceded defeat. Rimuru successfully analyzed the greed skill, dispersing the wave. Then, disregarding the continuously resisting Mariabell, Rimuru planned for the final strike, employing the king of gluttony Beelzebub to devour her into his stomach. However, at that moment, a loud booming noise echoed at the edge of Rimuru's vision. He instinctively turned to see Cheyenne's body pierced through by Yuki's kick, collapsing onto the ground motionless. Rimuru yelled out, wanting to rush over to help, but Mariabell and Yuki burst into laughter simultaneously, seemingly to drown out Rimuru's cries. They admitted their wrong judgment, had totally underestimated Demon Lord Rimuru, not expecting him to be a monster of this caliber. At the same time, Mariabell emitted stronger dark waves, transferring her power to Yuki, who then stood in Rimuru's way under the control of the greed. With that, Rimuru and Yuki sprang into action, and at the moment their kicks intersected, both were blown away by the equal and opposing forces. Rimuru couldn't afford to be careless, and with a fleeting glance ensuring Cheyenne's safety, prepared to block Yuki's next kick. Yet, in the next moment, an astonishing event unfolded. Rimuru's left arm shattered from the elbow down as if it were smashed open. Unable to suppress the shock, Rimuru leaped backwards to distance himself, dumbfoundedly gazing at his own wrist. According to the Lord of Wisdom's analysis, this was the effect of Yuki's exceptional anti-skill physique. In the face of this trait, all magic and abilities would be nullified, meaning, whether it's an offensive skill or a self-protection barrier like Absolute Guard, everything would cease to function upon contact with Yuki, with only physical techniques or martial arts having any effect. Rimuru heaved a sigh internally. Initially, considering Yuki was also from Japan, he had wanted to show mercy, hoping to spare Yuki's life. However, facing such an overwhelmingly powerful physique, Rimuru realized that showing any leniency would certainly mean losing to Yuki. Bracing himself, Rimuru drew his straight blade. The dark blade, entwined with Rimuru's demonic aura, emanated a sinister air. Upon seeing this, Yuki too unsheathed a small knife from his waist with his right hand, while his left hand gripped another single-edged sword, a style known from legends as dual-wielding. Rimuru stamped the ground, swinging towards Yuki in a single breath. Utilizing his remarkable physical agility, Yuki swiftly parried the attack. In this brief moment of offense and defense, Rimuru discovered that Yuki, with a weapon, became weaker compared to before without a weapon, due to the inability of the anti-skill to directly affect the weapon. Armed with this knowledge, Rimuru pretended a loss of balance from the parry, exposing a vulnerability. Yuki, seizing the opportunity, aimed a ferocious blow at Rimuru's heart. However, everything was within Rimuru's calculations. The blade, lacking the anti-skill negation effect, couldn't breach Rimuru's defense, and halted at his chest. With a backhand motion, Rimuru unleashed his most potent sword technique, Storm Break, rendering Yuki unconscious on the ground. Rimuru then turned towards Yuki, readying his blade, when suddenly Kigali rushed forward, embracing Yuki, pleading for Rimuru's mercy. Following Kigali, members of the adventure team surrounded Yuki, attempting to halt Rimuru. Rimuru reluctantly agreed not to kill Yuki. However, at this juncture, Yuki regained consciousness, murmuring hazily with a face of agony. The Lord of Wisdom later indicated that Yuki had broken free from mental control. Rimuru was skeptical, but with the dissipation of Yuki's murderous intent, he could only accept this explanation. Afterwards, a healed Yuki decided to go after Mariabell, who had seized the opportunity to escape, while Rimuru, having ascertained that Cheyenne was unharmed, hastened to Melene's battlefield. Back to Mariabell's perspective, Mariabell was frantically fleeing. Yet, she wasn't fleeing due to a change of heart about victory, she had one last resort. As per her plan with Yuki, she aimed to activate a crystalline relic of ancient magical technology at the center of the ruins to trigger a massive magical explosion, intending to engulf Rimuru and Yuki amidst their battle, catching them off guard and killing them. Thus, Mariabell reached the deepest part of the ruins, only to find nothing there as mentioned in the reports. It was completely empty. Confused, Mariabell received an answer from an unexpected voice, saying there was no so-called magic engine reactor within these ruins. Yuki and Kigali then appeared, unabashedly ignoring Mariabell and bursting into laughter. Realizing the scene before her, Mariabell came to understand that she had been deceived by Yuki. From the very beginning, Yuki was never under control. How could Yuki, with his anti-skill physique, be manipulated? Moreover, Yuki's ambitions surpassed even Mariabell's. All this was nothing but a charade. Yuki looked at Mariabell with a hint of pity, explained the situation to her, and in the next instant, struck swiftly. His hand blade pierced through Mariabell's heart. Moreover, the power from Mariabell was absorbed by Yuki through the blood oozing out. The expression on Mariabell's face was full of unwillingness, but as her power drained away, she inevitably met her demise. Upon the brink of death, Yuki expressed to Mariabell with an air of indifference that had she been born a decade earlier, she might have had the chance to dominate this world. However, it mattered little, as Yuki decided to inherit Mariabell's greed. On another front, Rimuru was gazing down at the Chaos Dragon below, a colossal dragon stretching to 100 meters in length. It made Charybdis seem like a mere speck in comparison. The Chaos Dragon was continuously absorbing magicules, growing larger and larger. Faced with such an adversary, even Rimuru might find himself at a loss. However, Meline was different. Rimuru hailed Meline, who, on the verge of tears, revealed that the dragon was her friend, and she couldn't bring herself to end its life. Rimuru remained unfazed, knowing that with the Lord of Wisdom on their side, resolving the situation seemed like a light task, similar to their previous encounter with Charybdis. As long as the core remained intact, there was still a chance to save the dragon. Hence, Rimuru asked Meline to control her power output as much as possible, while he would follow the trail of her power to locate the core of the Chaos Dragon. As Meline unleashed her Drago Buster skill, time seemed to slow down a 10,000-fold. The Chaos Dragon showed no signs of wear from Meline's assault, while Rimuru felt as though he was bearing an eternal weight, with magicules rapidly draining away. After what felt like an eternity but was merely a second, Rimuru found the glittering core. Luckily, at that very moment, the dark mist enveloping it dissipated abruptly as Mariabell was annihilated. Seizing the moment, Rimuru frantically proceeded with his task, using Beelzebub to devour the core before Meline's power could obliterate it, and then proceeded to consume the disintegrating Chaos Dragon entirely. Thus, with the combined efforts of Rimuru and Meline, the Chaos Dragon was wholly devoured by Rimuru. Yet, the ordeal was far from over. Rimuru produced a pseudo-soul, intending to host the core of the Chaos Dragon within it, but the core showed no response. Growing anxious, Rimuru inquired,
Meline, does your Chaos Dragon friend have a name?
A name, you say? Gaia, I've always wanted to call him that someday. It's a pretty good name, Gaia, isn't it?
Rimuru felt relieved.
Your name is Gaia. It would be nice if you could wake up before your friend bursts into tears.
At this, the pseudo-soul emanated a faint glow, and the core finally took residence within it. Thus, all matters came to a conclusion. Rimuru relished the joy, bubbling from within, as he and Meline returned to their companions. With Mariabell defeated, what would the ruler of the Rosso family, Grand Bell Rosso, plan for revenge next? What is Yuki's scheme? How will Diablo's recruitment proceed? Beginning from the next episode, we will start the review of Tensura Light Novel Volume 11. The Volume 11 is among the most exciting volumes in the Tensura series, expanding further on various characters and the Tensura worldview. All primordial demons will make their appearance, and multiple timelines will unfold within this volume. In the next episode, we will discuss how Rimuru recruits the other 3 primordial demons. Alright, that's all for this video. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.